Welcome to the Politics of the Great Powers. In this introductory video, I want to briefly convey to you some ideas about geopolitics as a way of exploring what is great about great power politics. Now, this is no ordinary geopolitical moment. You're probably familiar with evaluations such as these. This one comes from the US National Security Strategy from 2022, and it describes geopolitics as being at an inflection point and at the early phases of a decisive decade. Events in Ukraine and Gaza have forced the EU to galvanise their efforts towards a common geopolitical posture. And Europe is also grappling with the tumultuous events of US politics, its major partner, and also the aggressive antics of Russia. The Australian National Defence Strategic Review highlights that the Indo-Pacific region is experiencing higher levels of geopolitical competition, and that this has prompted the largest re-evaluation of Australia's defence posture since the Second World War. You may be less familiar with the nuances of alternative visions of world order. In a speech to APEC in San Francisco last year, President Xi highlighted China's role in the rapid economic change which has defined international relations. The Indo-Pacific is the engine of that growth, Xi argues, and China is increasingly asserting itself as an economic leader, globally but particularly in the region. But it's also seeking to reassure the region that it does not intend to destabilise others as it pursues its goal, peaceful development. In this speech, Vladimir Putin seeks to expose the hypocrisy of a Western-dominated order as one that he characterises as neo-colonial, its essence, privileging the powerful states of the US and the EU and those countries aligned with them. Putin argues that, contrary to the aspirations of classical liberalism, this system is in fact unequal and inconsistent with what he presents as a vision of a truly democratic and multipolar world order, one that embraces an equal opportunity for all states, highlighting the inclusion of Asia, Islamic states, Africa, and so on. In a speech that Modi gave to the US Congress, he presented India as a rapidly developing, economically developing nation, but particularly highlighted India's standing as the world's largest democracy and its deep roots in these traditions. In fact, Modi often characterises India as the mother of democracy. He espouses a view of the Indo-Pacific that protects sovereignty and integrity, and above all, India sees itself as the champion of the developing world, offering a credible voice for the global south. This is no ordinary geopolitical moment, argues Thomas Friedman in an expansive analysis of geopolitics, which he frames in terms of the grand contest between a network of resistance and a network of inclusion. He explains how the wars in Ukraine and Gaza are tied into this broader geopolitical framework, and incidentally points out that China straddles both networks. And this, he says, is important, again, in the competition for the global south, which he characterises as having their hearts and often their pocketbooks with the resistors, but their heads with the includers. What do you think? What are the similarities and differences in these geopolitical visions? And what can we learn in terms of what do you think are the distinctive roles and responsibilities of great powers? I encourage you to read the Friedman article and ask yourself whether you agree with his characterization of geopolitics as a contest between resistance and inclusion networks. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts about this in the tutorials.